Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello and welcome to Business Line's State of Economy podcast with the theme of marketing. I'm Chitra Narayanan, editorial consultant, Business Line, anchoring the show. It's cricket season now. The IPL has just got over, but all eyes are now on the T20 World Cup being held in the US and West Indies. In today's episode, we look at the globalization of cricket, how it is spreading and growing. To talk about this, we have on our show a regular guest, Shiv Kuma, operating partner at Advent International, who has long been associated with cricket as a sponsor during his days at Nokia, PepsiCo, Unilever, etc., to give us the big picture. And we have with us Anurag Dahiya, Chief Commercial Officer of ICC, who's, of course, the man of the moment growing amid spread of cricket. Let's dive in. Hi, Anurag. Hi, Shiv. Good to have you here.
Hi, Chitra.
Wonderful
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting days with all this cricket. So the T20 World Cup being held jointly in the US and West Indies, and with teams like Uganda making their debut, it shows that cricket is really spreading. So if you can enumerate the factors, is it the new format of the game which is driving the spread, or is it the diaspora, or is it the huge success of IPL, which has made countries all over the world sit up and kind of take note?
Sure. No, it's absolutely delightful that countries such as Uganda, in fact, just last week we announced that Samoa has qualified for the first time for an ICC event with their under-19 women's team now qualified for the next under-19 women's T20 World Cup. So you're absolutely right in saying that, it's teams that a lot of our fans don't normally associate with global cricket. They are breaking through. And to my mind, it's a confluence of a number of factors. Absolutely, nothing succeeds like success, and to have a shining example of how exciting and how involving and enticing for the fans the sport can be, which IPL has shown. That does absolutely serve as a North Star for a lot of our members to aspire towards. But I think where we were able to make a big shift was by positioning T20 as the growth format. And that's been a story in the making for the last 15, 17 years. And in 2018, the ICC actually took a pretty significant decision, which was to basically permit all its members to play what are called T20 internationals. So up until that point, only a select club of countries could play these international games. But since then, we currently have 108 members. All 108 can play T20 internationals. And that's basically, the doors have been opened for all countries to come in. It is a format which favors a bit of a flatter or a more even playing field, in the sense that there are more chances that you can, on your day, upset on paper higher ranked team as well. And that is the excitement of sport. On a day, somebody can turn the tables and end up as the unexpected winner. So T20 does that beautifully. It gets fans behind it, gives teams a fighting chance of actually meeting some of the leading teams and be competitive. And then consciously, we've done a few things. Digital is played a huge role. We can talk a lot about that. More exposure for the sport in territories where it wasn't visible, opening up more pathways for teams to qualify. This year, the T20 World Cup in US and Caribbean, it's going to have 20 teams. That's the biggest T20 World Cup we've ever had. So there are more chances for the associate member countries to come in and play at the top level. I think all of that has come together beautifully to now start, getting teams such as Uganda, teams such as Rwanda, which was in the T20 World Under-19 T20 World Cup. Indonesia made it to the Women's T20 Under-19 World Cup as well. So all these teams, and of course we had Thailand at the Women's T20 World Cup in 2020 as well. So it's a theme we see now more and more, and that's super exciting for us.
So cricket will become a truly global sport. Yeah, Shiv, your take on this? The format is exciting. One query though, Anurag. That means the test playing nations still remain capped at 12, or is that correct?
For now, they do, yes. I think it's a very rich format which we do want to support, but it is also a very expensive format for our members to play. It's expensive. Its revenues are more challenging in terms of gate collections and so on. So we feel that there's the right volume of Test cricket that you want to maintain.
Okay.
But so yeah, that
Okay.
it for the time being will not probably expand.
All right. So Shiv, over to
Yeah,
you.
I would agree with Anurag. It is, to my mind, it's the new format. Something which you can consume in 3 to 4 hours. It's non-stop excitement. And he said anybody can beat anyone. Last week, USA beat Bangladesh. You would never have thought about it ever in your life. Okay. In a T20 match in America. Okay.
Twice in a row, Shiv, twice in a row.
Twice in a row, absolutely right. I think it's the pace of the game, it's the excitement of the game. And the other thing which I think the ICC should take a lot of credit for, and I don't, while IPL is there, but it's not the main reason in my book, is the grassroots work that ICC has done with under 17, under 19, women's cricket, blind cricket, all kinds of different, ways in which cricket could be played. I think that is something which has come through. And under 17 and under 19 have groomed people for the future. It's created an excitement in each of those countries. I think those would be the two big reasons in my book. The diaspora one is a much smaller one, Chitra.
Okay. So, but one hears about many countries planning their own T20 leagues now, Saudi Arabia, etc. So will the format get overexploited? I mean, it's all very well to open it up, but if every country is having leagues, etc., and any checks and balances, I do notice ICC has some rules about capping the number of players. Anurag?
Yeah, we did keep an eye on that, and recently we came out with those regulations which cap the number of overseas players at 4 for new T20 leagues that come up. Although, of course, for existing leagues, there's a grandfathering, and so as to keep that going and not disrupt that. But again, there's a little bit of a nuance there, which is that although it is capped at 4 overseas players, if you are bringing in associate member players, then they don't count towards the cap. So that's, I think, is a great way to promote cricket, T20 cricket in our associate membership. It gives them more opportunities to play in these leagues. I don't think there is any danger of overexploitation. We feel that the market will find its balance. Some of these leagues will become commercially very successful, others might not. But that's a normal phenomena in any business. If you were to look at it as a business, you will have a lot of different launches, and they will have, these are all products, all targeting different objectives. Some of them are purely for growth of grassroots cricket. Many are keeping eyes firmly fixed on commercial returns, and they'll find their balance. So we don't want to come in and start dictating who can have these leagues and who can't. We just want to apply yardsticks which are the same for all of these T20 leagues which are coming up, in a way that they all ultimately contribute to the growth of cricket globally. And that's why we didn't want a lot of these leagues ultimately competing for the same limited pool of international superstars, and then kind of having, multiple leagues which all look the same. So our view is that, the most successful leagues will be the ones which are able to resonate with local fandom, and the product is geared towards that fandom, rather than, and we've seen examples of both kinds. We've seen leagues which just thought that they're going to put up something and they'll make loads of money in media rights from India, and that's why they're doing it. But that, I don't think, is long-term sustainable. You have to be strong enough in your own market. And so, yeah, there are examples of leagues which have done exactly that. and show a lot of promise. We're going to be in the US. The MLC is a great example of what a league can do for growth of the game. I have a lot of excitement and hope for that particular league, the Major League of Cricket, MLC.
It has a lot of good backers. I mean, a lot of Indian entrepreneurs abroad have funded it, right? All the Googles and the
You were talking about the diaspora. That's one place where it has definitely been helpful with the checkbooks.
Yeah. So Shiv, your take that how many leagues are too many leagues?
Yeah, I would say, Chitra, the thing is, if the game is exciting, if the game is interesting, and most important, if the game can be streamed well on television, that's a very important aspect. There are many games which are very poor on television, like squash. You can throw all the money at it, you can do everything you want, you can mandate, but it can never be a very successful one. And IPL has spawned a number of leagues like tennis, like kabaddi, etc. Only kabaddi succeeded, everything else failed, as an example. Okay, so in my book, as long as the game is exciting, I think leagues will flourish. And as a parallel, I want to give you soccer. You take soccer in Europe, I can count Irish League, Scottish League, EPL, English League, Spanish League, Italian League, German League, Finnish League, etc. All of them compete. Some of them have international players. Some of them do not have international players. But all of them congregate to what's called a Champions League. The very best of the best from every single country, and different formats are there. The FA Cup is very different in its format from the EPL, which is 20 teams. So all that, as long as the game is good, leads up to a Champions League, which is very successful. I think the more leagues you have, as long as the quality is good and the game is exciting, you'll do that. You'll be successful. The ICC will now have to think, I personally believe, with so many leagues coming through, of a Champions League format. If you look at the big leagues today, Big Bash is working well. IPL works well. The English, whatever, T20, 100, both work well. I don't think Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, UAE, PSL work well at all. Okay, they might still have very good players coming through because of the money or whatever it is, but they just haven't got enough attraction because the games or whatever it is just not right. So I think one needs to think about it in that sense. Some leagues won't do well, some leagues will do very well, but the more excitement I think the cricketing body can create around a major league, the champions format kind of a thing, I think you'll get more.
Yeah, I guess that's early days yet.
In the US.
That's a great strategy then to grow the game. And in fact, I was going to come to media rights. ICC has pioneered a new media rights sales strategy, right? I mean, rather than a global deal, now you're doing territory by territory. So if you can lead us through the idea behind the strategy. And also in many of these countries, the pay TV giants seem to be getting the rights. So if it's not free to air, will it affect viewership? I mean, will viewers really pay in a say non-cricket playing country?
Yeah, yes, it's a great question, of course, and let me just take the first part. In terms of our strategy, you're absolutely right in saying, that's it's a conscious move to a region by region sale rather than one global deal. And that is based on two very simple objectives. One, when you do a global deal, inevitably, because there isn't a single global sports broadcaster, you will end up in a scenario where someone takes your rights, they exploit these rights in certain territories, but then they act as agency pretty much in the rest of the world. The second problem with that is, so that basically is, in very crude terms, you're leaving some money on the table for the agency to make. The second issue is that you've packaged the entire globe, which means the rights belong to the licensee now. Whether or not they get properly utilized in certain territories, in South America, there may not be much interest in broadcasting, but they've paid some money for it. So even if they can make $1, they would rather do that deal because it helps them monetize their investment. So you end up with these so-called dark territories where distribution can suffer. And thirdly, for us, and a lot of us here have broadcast backgrounds ourselves, we do understand the importance of being able to work directly with the sports federation, with the rights owner, because then what you can do is achieve a better alignment in marketing, in your communication strategy, in content strategy, in actually customizing your product to various territories. So us having that direct relationship now, whether it's in the US or in, of course in India, but in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, or South Africa, wherever, having that direct relationship is very important for the growth of the game. So in the US, for example, we are working with a partner there, and we're now just not about getting a world feed to them, which they can distribute, but it's also an engagement which starts much earlier, much before the event, in terms of strategizing with them, how they're going to market, how we can support that marketing effort, and so on. So it's no longer just a commercial relationship, which is what it ends up being when it's a global rights holder sub-licensing in various territories, but it's more purpose-driven. So that's why we went with that strategy. Coming to the second part of your question in terms of pay television, yeah, look, absolutely that has always been a debate, and it's something worth always keeping an eye on. But I think to an extent that debate is getting outdated a bit now. Because if you look around the world and if you look at major sports platforms, pay platforms have tremendous reach, and they are evolving themselves. So if you look at India, sure, our rights are with on paper a pay television channel or pay broadcast channel, but the reality is that the market has gone free there. So you can watch for free on Hotstar, for example, the coming T20 World Cup. So that's evolving as well. So that has definitely not hampered our reach. Or if you looked at Australia, for example, where the T20 World Cup will be shown by Amazon. Amazon today has better reach than pay television in Australia. So a lot of this is evolving. We keep our eyes on what each territory is doing. And again, that's the beauty of this territory by territory model, where you can suit your approach to what is happening in that specific territory. And we find that in a number of regions, pay television is still very strong. Sports on pay television is where people go and consume that content. For fans, that's the go-to destination. So we are in the right environment. So yes, exposure is important, but catching the fans where they're going and giving them an experience that they are expecting out of a global product, I think those are very important aspects as well.
Okay. Shiv, your take? The marketing perspective, the media rights are what all of us watch. It's the one that gets the revenues. And
I'll do that. So, but going back to your earlier question, Chitra, on too many leagues, actually we have many state leagues in India today. The Karnataka League, the Tamil Nadu League, the Andhra League, etc. And one of the best run one is the Tamil Nadu one, because it's got people like Michael Hussey and Matthew Hayden and all kinds of people doing commentary, and they're producing players into the main feed of CSK, whom you back. So some leagues, as I said, will do well. The next one is this whole broadcast thing. Do we have global brands? Yes. As I sit here with you and Anurag, KKR is a global brand. Mumbai Indians is a global brand. Rajasthan Royals is a global brand, and CSK is a global brand. The others will get there. Okay. All of them have interest in teams in the Caribbean, in Dubai, etc. And in terms of audience, Chitra, I remember doing an interview with you, I think in 2010 or 12, when you asked me about IPL, and I said, IPL's true test will be when at least 30% of the audience will be women and kids in the stadium. And if you look at every single stadium, we're getting at least 30% men and women. And why are they coming? And that's the uniqueness about the India thing, and they'll need to figure out for those markets. They are coming to see an SRK, a Juhi, a Shilpa Shetty, a Preeti Zinta. They are not coming to see Vijay Mallya and Kavya Maran, however nice she is, etc. The fact is, in India, IPL has become a confluence of Bollywood, music, cricket, and great rags to riches stories, which everybody understands, like Rinku Singh and Natarajan, etc. And in my book, I think whether it's pay or not paid, etc., this is like the newspaper format. The newspaper guys early on understood this. You need politics, you need accidents, you need obituary, you need sports, you need fashion, you need art. So every broadcaster requires a bouquet. And if he believes that his offering is complete or incomplete without cricket, then he will make the necessary moves accordingly. And I just saw Anurag mention Amazon. Netflix has taken the sponsorship, I think, of the Ryder Cup, if I'm not wrong. Okay. So now suddenly you have a new bunch of people coming in to broadcast because these guys have millions of consumers. I remember mentioning to Kirtika Reddy that one day, Facebook should be a bank. And that's what they've done with WhatsApp. So anybody who has a large consumer base is a potential broadcaster today. And social media, Insta, YouTube, everything actually plays into that. So I think you will see a very different dynamic of broadcast in the next decade than ever before.
Yeah, who knows? Each one of us will become an individual broadcaster.
Yeah.
I could be sitting in a stadium and just broadcasting something.
As long as Anurag allows it. They might not allow it.
Yeah, that's also there. I know. Yeah, Anurag has his own ICC TV. In fact, I must compliment you. I was surfing through that. The content on ICC.tv is getting really exciting. So, it's about 3 years, I think, since the launch of it. How's it going?
Yeah, it's been 3 years. It's been a long journey. There's a lot of way still to go. Thanks for those encouraging words. It's music to my ears. It is very exciting. It's doing exactly what we thought it would do. It was.
Can you share some numbers like viewership and how many people are signing in and the reach, etc.?
So we don't publish much of those numbers, but what I can tell you is that for a lot of games, we get million and a half for matchups that you wouldn't even have covered for 3-4 years back, 5 years back. So which is phenomenal. It's a cricket that people didn't even know existed, right? Why those million numbers are important for us are they are coming from countries where cricket doesn't get seen. They're coming from Nepal. They're coming from Germany. They're coming from Korea. They're coming from Japan. And that's really, really heartening. The goal with ICC TV was twofold. It was one, to provide access to dark markets for content which is already being covered, right? So we have a couple of years back, we had the Ashes, for example, shown on ICC TV in Europe. Cricket Australia didn't have a deal in Europe. And so they were looking at how they get it to the fans there. And this platform was ready for our members. So they just gave us a feed. And within days, we were able to promote it out, actually had it as a paid product. So you could just do a pay-per-view. You could pay 10 euros and watch the entire Ashes. So that's one part of why we did it. Give our members an easy way to get to what we call dark markets. The second objective there was to give those members who actually can't find broadcast at all, give them an easy way to actually reach their fans, because they are small numbers. They don't get into television. So can we create a platform where you could do really low-cost production, decent quality, low cost, but ubiquitous in terms of availability? So you could be anywhere in the world. And if it is Rwanda playing Uganda in a qualifier in one of our pathway events, you could be sitting in US and following your team. And that's been the game changer here. I think, you asked earlier what's helping teams like Uganda. I think this is one of those things. 3 years back, we launched it. A year or so back, I remember still the Brazilian women's team captain actually posted a very touching story on her social media, saying that, on ICC TV, they were playing a qualifier tournament in Mexico, one of our pathway events. And she says, after the event, I went back to Brazil, and my entire family was explaining to friends and family over dinner how cricket is played. They were making actions about how catches are done, how they bowl, etc. And she says I was surprised, and then I figured they'd been watching me on ICC TV, and this is the first time they actually saw me play. So
Wow. So cricket
it's
in Brazil one day. I mean, it's like
yeah. Well, Brazilian women's cricket is very interesting. It's up and coming. So yeah, it's things like that. If there was if it wasn't for ICC TV, that coverage wouldn't be available in a soccer mad country like Brazil.
yeah, nice. So it's
It would
opened
just
up.
remain a niche.
Yeah, it's opened up dark markets.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had delivered this keynote at the SHRM event where you talked about technology being a big factor in upping the content, making the content more exciting to watch. And of course, content is going to drive viewership and drive growth, right? So, do you think, what sort of new technology do you anticipate next in the on the cricket pitch or on the like broadcasting?
It's so hard to say, and that's what keeps it exciting, because we've got a phenomenal fan base who's very demanding, who wants cricket coverage to keep on looking different, better each year. But we are also fortunate to have a strong ecosystem behind the scenes, technology providers, equipment providers, software. There's a whole ecosystem of people and companies who's also then addressing that problem or challenge, I should say. So it's always hard to predict what the next thing will be. What we do from our perspective is to try and nudge some of these technologies towards what we feel are gaps in the market. So in the presentation that you were mentioning, I talked about vertical video, which we introduced a couple of years back. We started work on, I should say, a couple of years back, and introduced last year. Now that came clearly from a gap in the market in terms of how our fans in India were consuming cricket versus what we had, which we were serving to them as product. So, clearly there was a mismatch, and we had to come up with a new creative solution, a new technology solution. And now the next step for me, I think, is that while that's here to stay, how do we crash the cost of doing vertical coverage? How do you make it possible for more of our members to have a vertical version? How do we get more broadcasters to have front end, which can take vertical coverage and go on to their apps? So that's where that's evolution rather than revolution, if you will, of technology.
Yeah. So how many people are watching on the mobile? I mean, roughly ballpark, is it?
In India, I think everyone who has a mobile has definitely seen some cricket, especially because it's gone free now. So, you're talking probably 500 million people who've consumed some cricket over the last few months. It's the most penetrated in terms of live sports viewing in the world on mobile. What was heartening for us was almost a third of, or thereabouts, a bit more than actually third of the viewership on digital or on mobile was vertical during the World Cup. So clearly we were doing something right. Fans were coming in there without much promotion and without, any previous experience with it. They were just coming and finding this and sticking on with it. So a third of the consumption was vertical. So clearly that's something that will continue to grow. But technology is we have to keep on scanning what's up, what's new and exciting in the world outside of sport also. And so, for example, right now, VR has been in news so much, and new devices coming. So we are already questioning ourselves and saying, okay, or challenging ourselves, I should say, to say, what next? How do we use this device and medium to enhance fan experience? What could we do in VR space? So there's already some work happening, which hopefully we'll be able to share with fans in due course.
So cricket gets into the Olympics in 2028, which is so exciting. I think after 1900, this is the first time, right? So will that be a huge catalyst for global growth? Also, closing thoughts on where you see cricket in 2030.
Yeah, I think it will be because the Olympics is the biggest platform. It's a place where more than 200 countries are represented in some form or the other at any point of time. So apart from World Cup football, which starts off, a few years into it. So Olympics, being on the Olympics is good, and the T20 format makes it absolutely spot on. Okay, to be an exciting, thing there. To the point on 2030 and how I look at it, I think technology will take cricket into new areas, uncharted areas. And what would I say around that? First, I think, language has really been a huge hit. Yesterday, I was in Chennai and I messaged my friend Krish Kant, and he said, "Hey, Shiv, I'm in Bombay doing the Tamil feed for IPL final." And Tamil, Telugu, etc., have been huge successes. So, language as a way to promote the game and get more people in has been very successful. I think the vertical format that Anurag is talking about, I think will go through more improvements, more changes, and it will catch on over a period of time. I personally believe that cricket will have to use assets, other assets on the ground to say, hey, can we use it? For example, all the theater owners complain that during the IPL season of 8 to 10 weeks, people don't come to the theater. Now, what stops anybody, any broadcaster or the ICC themselves to go to PVR or somebody like that and say, you know what, why don't you offer three-dimensional IPL feed or test match feed or whatever important cricket match and get the people in, and let's do a share of revenue, let's do something different. You have 11,000, 12,000 screens available who are crying for business. Okay, and as Anurag said, they would be happy with $1 compared to zero before. Think of partnerships which will come thanks to technology. You could feed it in directly to the theater. PVR could have one feed from ICC directly and they could use it. And finally, I'm reminded of an outstanding ad. We talk of immersive technology, Chitra, now. That's a big buzzword everywhere. And Anurag talked about VR and metaverse. Somewhere, I think in the 90s, I saw this fantastic ad. I think it was the Times of London, who had a very big cricket correspondent. And that ad showed the cricket correspondent at third slip in a 5-slip cordon of the English cricket team and said, hey, we bring you ball by ball what's happening on the ground. Okay, so what stops cricket from being immersive tomorrow? I think the first shot was actually fired, believe it or not, in 11 years ago when Hansi Cronje mic'd himself up so that he could speak to his coach who was sitting outside for South Africa. Then they banned it. But I think innovations like this will actually spur it. That's the kind of technology into cricket which will make it far more exciting and far more, entertaining in a future world.
Great. Anurag, your closing thoughts on where you see cricket in 2030?
It's so hard, that's the most clouded crystal ball. But I know what my wish list is. What I'd love to see is a lot more countries playing regularly at our top events. I'd love to see women's cricket coming off its own and becoming commercially more viable, more desirable for our broadcast partners, for our branding, for our commercial partners. And I think, I'm with Shiv on saying that, there are all these new things, which many of them will be thanks to technology. We talked about the screens, the cinema screens, which, actually for many years, we've had one deal here, two deals there, some screens showing some major events, but one of the key problems there has been that, you don't have a high resolution image, which can go up to those big screens. So I do see 4K becoming more the norm, and then that making it possible for a more enjoyable experience on larger screens happening. VR, all these kind of new tools, more immersive in terms of cameras, maybe on an umpire's hat, giving you a view of that, whether on VR or through television. So all of that technology making it more immersive. But yeah, I think, what I would see or would love to see in 2030 is, in 2030, a conversation perhaps like this, where we are saying what a great Olympic that was in 2028, and we can't wait for cricket in Brisbane in 2032, and us discussing women's T20 World Cup, which would be around the corner in 2030, and hopefully in a country which is not a full member, and a calendar which will be starting. We're currently done till 2031. A new calendar will kick off in 2032, and hopefully that will see a lot of new hosts beyond the top 8 or 10 countries that tend to do this on rotation. Because you know what, just looking at US and just what that can mean for fans in that country, for our sport, that's so exciting. So hopefully we'll see more of these non-core countries hosting major events. That's kind of my wish list.
When Neeraj Chopra won the gold, the number of people who went to academies to sign up to learn javelin throw, not amazing.
Yeah.
Think about it, one man.
So yeah,
I think the kind of impact it can have if India gets in there, wins a gold. Wow.
I think you absolutely hit the hammer, the nail on the head, Shiv, which is impact of being in the Olympics is amazing in countries which we can't actually properly comprehend. So to give you an example, some of our teammates were in China a couple of weeks back, and they've started. They're looking to start an academy there. They're starting to invest in training facilities and so on, which is amazing. Years of trying wouldn't have moved that needle for us, but the moment it's got into Olympics, it's got attention.
Yeah, and China getting a gold in Olympics. Wow, that'll be something.
Yeah, look, that's how things start happening, right? There's 60 or 70 of our members who are suddenly now getting government support to get going in cricket. So all that is thanks to Olympics.
I'll give you one more example. When basketball came into the Olympics with professional players, it changed the complete nature of the way basketball is seen.
Okay, so great having both of you here, and I'm so excited at all the growth that cricket is having. But my immediate wish list is seeing India and West Indies in the T20 final. I hope that happens.